Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today I just wanted to go over one of my favorite decades in movie history, the 2010s. We're about halfway through the 2020s, and I think eventually I want to make a video looking at what's come out so far in this decade. But last decade was a really important and good one for movies. So many classics came out. The whole industry has changed a lot since then, so I think today I just wanted to go back and take a look back at the best movie from each year of the 2010s. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about a couple different movies from each year, some honorable mentions, but I'm going to pick my absolute favorite one from each year. Some years are easier than others, but there's some great movies that are going to be mentioned in this video. And with that, let's get right into it with 2010. This is one of the easier ones for me. Obviously, there were movies like Toy Story 3. A lot of people love Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, but it wasn't really one of my favorites. There's Toy Story 3. There's some that I haven't seen but are critically acclaimed, like Black Swan, or obviously the big one for many people is going to be Inception. But I still think the best movie of 2010 is undoubtedly The Social Network. The biggest key to this movie is its pacing. You never lose interest in any scene because the rhythm of the movie is so engaging. You never want to take your eyes off the screen, and that works. That comes from the editing, one of the best scripts, I think, of this century from Aaron Sorkin, and, of course, the performances, mainly Jesse Eisenberg and Andrew Garfield.
Sorry, my Prada's at the cleaners, along with my hoodie and my fuck you flip-flops, you pretentious douchebags.
I don't really know how this didn't end up winning Best Picture at the Oscars this year, but yeah, I think this is the modern day version of Citizen Kane, and I'm going to say something kind of controversial. I think it's better than Citizen Kane. I think it is undoubtedly up there as one of the best movies of all time. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Now we move on to 2011. So this was kind of a hard year to pick, but not because there's so many great options, more that this was just a lackluster year for movies in general. I have not seen Drive, which would be probably most people's choice. There's also The Tree of Life, which I thought was interesting, but not particularly engaging. I found myself wandering at some points. It's more of an experience than a narrative feature, and I wasn't really expecting that, so maybe going back into it after already seeing what it is, I can appreciate it more. There's also Midnight in Paris, which was a pretty interesting concept, didn't really do anything amazing, so I'm going to go with Moneyball for my pick as the best movie of 2011. This isn't anything groundbreaking or, one of the greatest movies of all time, but it's a solid sports movie. It's one of those classic cable movies or dad movies where, like, you see it on TV, you're probably going to sit down and watch the rest of it because it's just a good time. Brad Pitt is great in it. Jonah Hill is great in it. It's just a good, feel-good sports story, and kind of interesting to see the rise of analytics in sports compared to now, where that is a major factor in not just baseball, but all major sports. 2012, this was a pretty good year for movies. You have The Life of Pi, there is Place Beyond the Pines, Lincoln, The Master is fantastic, Moonrise Kingdom is fantastic, but my favorite movie of 2012 is undoubtedly Django Unchained by Quentin Tarantino. I see it as both a mastery and a tribute to the Western genre. It's a nearly 3-hour long movie. It is an epic, but it doesn't feel like 3 hours. It goes by super fast because you're super invested in everything that happens from beginning to end. There's no slow points at all. Tarantino, what can you say? He is obviously one of the most popular directors ever, for good reason. I would put this up there among his best. Great score, fantastic performances from the main four actors, Samuel L. Jackson, Jamie Foxx, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Christoph Waltz. All of them are fantastic in their roles. It's interesting to see Leo playing a villain. And one thing I really like about it is that there is no moral about revenge being wrong. We're just fully allowed to enjoy Django taking his vengeance out on all these slavers. Now we move on to 2013, which is arguably an even better year for movies than 2012 was. As I list these honorable mentions out, a lot of them are probably going to be a lot of people's favorite movie of that year, just because there's so many great picks that could be number one. Inside Llewyn Davis, Under the Skin, Before Midnight, Dallas Buyers Club, 12 Years a Slave, The Great Gatsby, Snowpiercer, Wolf of Wall Street, which was almost my number one, but I can't choose any other movie for 2013 than Her. So Her isn't just one of my favorite movies of this year, it is one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't think there's not many other movies that have touched me as deeply as Her has. I think after watching it for the first time, I definitely feel like there's a before and after period. That sounds dramatic, but I think it definitely had an impact on me as a person. Spike Jonze is very accurately able to capture the feeling of loneliness and despair, as well as what it's like to be in love. Of course, there's performances by Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. Joaquin Phoenix in particular gives, I think, one of the best performances of this century. He's just so raw, so human, so relatable, honestly, I think. Another great thing about this movie is it's going to age incredibly well as humanity's relationship with AI and technology grows even further and will maybe someday look like this movie, because it does a smart thing where it's set into the not too distant future, so everything that happens seems pretty believable. It's nothing really that out there. Well, we could as a society come to this point that they're at in the movie. I think a great thing this movie shows is that even though technology has connected the world together, we are living in times where people are feeling more lonely and isolated than ever and are searching much harder for connection. Finally, the ending is heartbreaking but also hopeful. One of the only movies to bring me close to tears, and it's every single time I watch it I start welling up. 2014 was another great year for movies. A lot of people would probably pick Interstellar or Nightcrawler for their favorite. I also want to give a shout out to Chef. It's not my favorite movie of the year, but it is one of the coziest and best chill movies I think you'll ever see. I almost went with Whiplash for my number one, but I'm going to have to go with Gone Girl, directed by David Fincher. It was a really tough choice between this and Whiplash because I love both movies, but I went with Gone Girl because I think the mystery-ish aspect of it really put it over the edge for me. It's interesting to see how everything unfolds, both sides of the story. Just two really not nice people being in a relationship, and it's really interesting to see all the fallout from that. So it's really a little minor thing, but I prefer the cool coloring of Gone Girl to the warm orangish coloring of Whiplash. For some reason, I don't know, something about this fits better with its coloring than Whiplash's. Obviously, you can't talk about Gone Girl without mentioning how amazing Rosamund Pike is in her role. Definitely another one of the best performances of this decade. She's pretty scary in this movie, honestly. In 2015, there's a lot of great picks. Inside Out, Mad Max Fury Road, The Witch, Spotlight, Room, Ex Machina. If you haven't seen Tangerine, I would suggest checking that out. It's shot completely on an iPhone. I've heard Sicario is fantastic as well. My absolute favorite movie of 2015 is going to have to be Creed. Creed is a movie that will make you feel like you can run through a brick wall. It takes the formula of the classic Rocky movie. It's basically a soft remake of the original Rocky, but it updates it with slick editing and camera work. Training montages and fight scenes in this movie are some of my favorite action/sports scenes in any of those kind of movies ever. Michael B. Jordan is obviously great, and Sylvester Stallone gives what I think is the best performance of his career. And Ryan Coogler, in only his second ever feature film, shows so much prowess as a director. 2016, all these movies I'm about to list, I have rated either 4.5 or 5 stars. This was a pretty stellar year for movies. Got Arrival, obviously there's Moonlight, Everybody Wants Some by Richard Linklater. Train to Busan is probably the best zombie movie of all time, outside maybe Night of the Living Dead. And of course, Manchester by the Sea with a crushing performance by Casey Affleck. But if you know me, then you know my number one pick for 2016 has to be La La Land. Like her, this is not just my favorite movie of the year. This is pretty close to my favorite movie of all time, and one that's very personal and deep to me. It's one of the hallmarks of my relationship. Everything from the score, the performances, the editing, the cinematography, the musical performances, the choreography, everything in this movie is done to perfection. I really don't see... There's not many movies, I think, that have mastered the art of filmmaking like Damien Chazelle does in La La Land. He perfectly captures the feelings of romance and aspiration and how they can interfere with each other. And again, it's a movie that moves me to tears every single time I've seen it, and I've seen it close to maybe 10 times in my life. 2017 is another fantastic year for movies. It seems, as I'm making this, I'm realizing that from 2013 on, there were just bangers every single year. 2010's kind of stumbled coming out of the gate, but they really ramped it up, especially towards the end. You've got Logan, Dunkirk, Phantom Thread, Blade Runner 2049, Call Me By Your Name, Lady Bird, The Shape of Water, Get Out, and my personal favorite, The Florida Project. So Lady Bird and Call Me By Your Name were close runners-up, but what pushed Florida Project over the edge was how raw and real it is. I think it captures childhood better than any other movie. This will take you back to being a kid, both the good times and the bad times. And I really just love the contrast of the pretty shitty situation that the people living in this motel are put in compared to the magic of Disney World, which they are basically in the shadows in. And as always, one of my favorite actors ever, Willem Dafoe, is great in this. 2018 was a great year. My favorites would probably be Hereditary, Black Klansman. Mid-90s was a great directorial debut for Jonah Hill. Avengers Infinity War is, I think, the best Marvel movie, one of the best superhero movies. But I don't think anyone is going to question my pick for number one, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I don't really need to say a lot for this one because everyone's talked to death about how great it is, but you know, it is one of the, up there as the best comic book movie, the best animated movie of all time. It's literally a a landmark in animated cinema. Literally changed the entire game. You could look at pre-Spider-Verse and post-Spider-Verse, and there's a clear difference in animated movies after that. Again, don't need to dwell on it. You know how good it is. We come to the last year of the 2010s, 2019, which is probably my favorite movie year ever. There's so many good movies that came out this year. This is going to be the longest list of honorable mentions yet. So long, I'm going to have to read them straight off the list. Uncut Gems, Booksmart, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Rocket Man, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, 1917, The Lighthouse, Little Women, Knives Out, Midsummer, Parasite, Joker, and my number one favorite movie of the year, Marriage Story. So this was definitely the hardest year to pick a favorite from because I love all those movies I just mentioned, or most of those movies I just mentioned. Some of them I like, but a lot of them I love. Two powerhouse performances from Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver, paired with an amazing script by Noah Baumbach. It's a hard movie to watch, but also I find it kind of comforting. I really don't know why. I think it's because, it's ironic that a movie about divorce portrays love so well. I think also because it has very warm colors, a great score by Randy Newman, I think his best work, and something about it just keeps drawing me back. It feels very real, and really it's all just those two lead performances. They are so good. It also contains one of my favorite scenes ever in a movie near the end. If you haven't seen it yet, I would suggest you see it as soon as you possibly can. It is absolutely worth it. All right, that was my list of the top movies of the 2010s. I kind of want to do more of these, so let me know down below what decade of movies I should do next in this style. I just want to say thank you for watching. As always, please, if you haven't already, subscribe, leave a like, and I will see you next time.